I think it's B3. Yeah, 45B3. Okay, the Gemara has been focusing a lot about Mukseh. That's been the major subject that we've been learning about. It might take us to the end of the parak. You know what? Really, it's 45B2. So towards the bottom of the page, Amalei Abayel Rabbi Yosef. You have it? So what we said yesterday is that we said we had a story that Rabbi Yitzchak, the son of Rabbi Yosef, went to the Holy Land. And he went to the Holy Land and he brought back a souvenir. What was the souvenir that he brought back, David? Not some jewelry. Rather, he brought back a halacha, something that he heard in Israel. That Rabbi Yochanan said that the law follows Rabbi Yehuda regarding mukseh. There's a major dispute, kosher dispute, so to speak, between the rabbis, namely here Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, regarding mukseh, regarding which items fall under the category of mukseh, which items are not under the category of mukseh. And Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef came back from the Holy Land, and he said that Rabbi Yochanan says the law follows Rabbi Yehuda. And because he came back from the Holy Land with that report, Rabbi Yosef subsequently said, morning, Adam, look who's back. Back and better than ever. Right, David? And the Gemara says, Abaye is surprised. Because Rabbi Yosef, once he hears Rav Yitzchak's the news, this is called worthy news, not fake news, real news, that Rabbi Yochanan said the law follows Rabbi Yehuda. As a result of that, Rabbi Yosef now says, now I understand that when we had a quote by Rabbah, the son of Rav Chana, quoted in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that the people in the yeshiva said that the law follows Rabbi Shimon, which is the more lenient approach in Mukseh. It's that when Rabbi Yochanan said that, he didn't mean to say, and I concur and I agree with the people of the yeshiva's opinion. Rather, they say the law follows Rabbi Shimon, but I myself do not agree that way. I feel the law follows, good morning, Boker Tov, the law follows Rabbi Yehuda. So now comes Amalei Abaye. Welcome to the class. Very happy that you joined. You can, if you want to use a Gemara, you look inside. We are on the bottom of 45b2. Just make sure you said the Birkat HaTorah. You already said it? Okay, so then you're good. So 45b2 on the bottom. So Abaye says to Rabbi Yosef, you're coming into a very interesting, every sugya is interesting. You know what I mean? You're coming into, what's your name, sir? Moshe. So Moshe Rabbeinu. So you're coming into a Gemara Mukseh on Shabbat. It's a very big subject. And we have disputes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon regarding Mukseh. Those are like two. If you want to identify David and Moshe and Adam, the two big, if you want to send to the group, the two big rabbis that argue on the subject of Mukseh, the top answer on the board would be Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Those would be the, you got that, David? In your Jeopardy game, right, David? Those are the top two answers on the board. And the Gemara wants to know, what does Rabbi Yochanan hold? Rabbi Yochanan is a later rabbi, Amorah, from Israel, lived in Israel. Does he agree with Rabbi Shimon? Does he agree with Rabbi Yehuda? And Rabbi Yitzchak went to the land of Israel, Eretz Israel, and he said, and he saw, and he said that Rabbi Yochanan said he was there. He said Rabbi Yochanan said the law follows Rabbi Yehuda, a more stricter approach in the laws of Mukseh. That's what he came back with. And as a result of him coming back with that news, now Rabbi Yosef says, you know what? Rabbi Yosef says, now I understand, we have to interpret, morning Asaf, that Rabbi Yochanan said that the people in the yeshiva said that the law follows Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't mean, the Gemara originally thought if he's saying, if Rabbi Yochanan is saying the people in the yeshiva say the law follows Rabbi Shimon, sounds like he agrees with that. If I quote them, sounds like Rabbi Fadi Yosef says this. Sounds like I agree with him. But no, he's saying, Rabbi Yochanan is saying, they in the yeshiva say the law follows Rabbi Shimon, but I myself disagree. I myself hold the law follows who? Rabbi Yehuda. And how do we know that that's what he meant? Because we see the report from Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yochanan says the law follows, morning Simon, the law follows Rabbi Yehuda. So now what the Gemara is going to say, Simon, we have a Gemara right here for you. The Gemara is now going to say, look at the bottom of 45b2. Amalei Abaye Rabbi Yosef. Abaye says to Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yosef, you needed to hear that report. You needed that news, right? You needed to hear that in order for you only because you heard the report from the Holy Land that Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Now you're going to change your perspective, your understanding of Rabbi Yochanan regarding Mukseh. Without the report, you would have concluded that Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Shimon, right? Because only as a result of the report, now you understand, now you're coming to a certain conclusion. So the Gemara wants to know, why did you need the rabbi to go to the Holy Land to hear that the law, to hear that Rabbi Yochanan says the law follows Rabbi Yehuda? You should have known that Rabbi Yochanan follows like Rabbi Yehuda without the report of the rabbi who went to the Holy Land. How should you have known it? Because we have a story with a student, with the Talmid of Rabbi Yochanan. And from that story, David, the Gemara wants to say you could learn out, you should be able to see that the student of Rabbi Yochanan held like Rabbi Yehuda. And if the student of Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Yehuda, usually the students follow their what? Their rabbi. So if the student of Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Yehuda, so that means Rabbi Yochanan himself obviously most probably held like Rabbi Yehuda. So why do you need the rabbi to go to Israel? You have to figure out, to find out the answer. Who does Rabbi Yochanan hold like? You should have known from the story that everybody knew the story. What was the story? Everybody likes stories, right? Here we got the story. He says, Amalei Abaye Rabbi Yosef. Simon, you got it? We're on 45b2, bottom end of the page, right column. Amalei Abaye Rabbi Yosef. Va'atl tizbara. You do not hold. You would not know the Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yehuda. You wouldn't know by until now. You needed the report. David, is it clear what we're saying here in the Gemara? You wouldn't know that the law follows it. By the way, Moshe, we like when people speak up. Don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated. I'm not an intimidating man, I don't think, right? Hope not, right? I think that David and I hope I'm not. Feel free to speak up. I like to hear when people talk besides myself. Right, Simon? I like to hear other voices. I'm not like the Democrats. It's my way or the highway. You know that you can't talk. You're not allowed to say anything. If you're not Democrat, if you don't have their view, you can't say nothing. People are afraid to say anything today, right? Amalei Abaye Rabbi Yosef. You wouldn't know that Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Without that report, you wouldn't be able to figure it out. Rav Abba v'Rav Asi ikla'u lebei Rav Abba de min Haifa. We know there was a story of Rav Abba and Rav Asi. They came to the house of Rav Abba in Haifa. Maybe that's Haifa, in Haifa. How do you like that? Ashkacha pratit. Do you see that? You understand he came into the class. It's the first time he came into the class, and I don't remember how long. And here we have him Haifa. Tell me, that's not Ashkecha Pratit, David. What do you say about that story that just happened?
There is no mikveh, right?
No mikveh. No. How common does the now? If you want to do a Google search, how many times in the whole Bavli, in the whole Shas, in the whole Talmud, from Brachot to Nida, how many times mentions Haifa? Very rare. Am I correct?
Here we have the mayor.
And here we have Haifa right here. What do you say to that?
My wife told me, why is went so early to shopping? I said, never mind. It's better to come before, you know. I came inside. I heard the lesson. Said, let's go in.
See that?
So there's no recurring.
How do you like? I got to share the story. And also, I'm going to do it. We're going to do after. I mean, the Chaim Kanievsky, if you would ask him, he could tell you on the spot how many times Haifa was probably mentioned in the whole Shas. We need Chiyat HaMeitim. Better than Google, yes. You know, I had a story with AI recently. I don't know if I tell you a story. You want to hear a story? I was with the students at NYU in the cafeteria, right, David? And I try to encourage the students to say brachot on their food. And they had tacos. They had taco lunch with tacos. I told them taco is a shahako. So I told them taco is a shahako.
Which taco?
Yeah,
Two styles. It depends. It depends on what they make. It's for corn or something else.
Right.
Some taco, no. Yeah. Some taco made from flour. Yeah. Some of them. So also in Israel, you need to read.
Right. The ingredients. Right. But this taco was this taco was seemed to have been made not from flour. Like the tacos that we a lot of tacos in America that they're selling cheap American is not flour. Right. Corn and they crush it and they grind it. So what? Charcoal. So the guy in the cafeteria I say to him charcoal. So he said, okay, I want to check with Google. I want to check with AI. AI says mizonot. But I told him, got to tell AI if there's no flour in it. AI said, okay, I made a mistake. Or he says, AI says, whatever. It wasn't. Yeah, exactly. I didn't make it precise. Now, why did AI say it depends? If it has flour, it doesn't have flour. And most of the ones here in America, like you said, you go buy a taco chip. If you go to a store and you buy a bag of taco, I don't believe it has flour in the ingredients. So take a look. We're going to take a look next time. People can't. AI is not the rabbi. You know what I'm saying? They make it about making mistakes. People think the AI will be the rabbi. Take substitute the rabbi. They got to talk to a rabbi. They got to talk to. So okay. So what happened? Rav Abba they came to Rav Abba ben Haifa. V'nafal menarta aglime, and there was a menorah. It was Shabbat, and during the Shabbat, the menorah had fallen on the garment of Rav Asi. It fell. The menorah. It wasn't on. It wasn't lit. It fell onto Rav Asi's coat. Let's say. V'lo tiltala. He did not move the menorah directly because the menorah is mukseh, because he held the menorah as mukseh. What did he do? Let's say he took the garment that was underneath that the menorah fell on, and he shook the garment and he shook off let's say the menorah, so therefore he could put on his coat. Now, according to Reb Shimon, you were actually allowed to take the menorah once, even if the menorah was lit for Shabbat. Once it went out, Reb Shimon holds it's not mukseh anymore. So the Gemara says, so obviously the fact that he did not want to pick up the menorah directly is because he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Lav mishmai taima, lam mishum Rav Asi, talmidei Rav Yochanan. He's a student of Yochanan. And Rav Yochanan, and obviously if he the student of Yochanan, didn't want to move it directly because his rabbi held that's considered mukseh, because his rabbi holds like Rav Yehuda, Yochanan Rav Yehuda's relay. Did they mukseh? So therefore, the Gemara is saying we see from this story, the rabbi should have known, Rabbi Yosef should have known from this story that Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Because if the student holds like Rabbi Yehuda, so must probably the rabbi. His rabbi holds like Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara says, you can't bring me the story. Mr. Haber would say, different case, maybe different law, right? You have to know the law, the case. Not all cases are alike. Amalei, Menarta Ka'amrit. Are you talking about a menorah? That story is a menorah. Menarta Shani. A menorah is different. Why is it different than any other lamp, right? Hura Rabbi Reish Lakish b'Tzidon. Reish Lakish gave a ruling in the town of Tzidon, menorah. If you have a light menorah, right? It's light. You could go ahead, hanitelet biyod achat. You can move the menorah with one hand. Mutar l'taltel b'Shabbat. Reish Lakish says that is not, meaning obviously this is, it seems like Reish Lakish is going like the opinion of Rav Shimon. You could go ahead and move it with one hand. But a menorah that's heavy, that the only way you can move it, you need two hands to move the menorah. A table menorah, let's say a table menorah. A menorah you put down in a certain spot, that in order for you to move it, you need two hands to pick it up.
So there is two problems with the menorah. One problem is the mixing. The second problem is if we move it, we can maybe
the fire might go out. We're talking about the fire. We're talking about the fire is out.
Yeah.
So there's no problem with kibui. Is that what you worry about? We're not worried about extinguishing it. The fire is out. Mukser. That maybe is it mukser or not? So Yishloka says it depends. Can you move with one hand? You can move with two hands. And the Gemara is going to explain. Yishlokish holds. The Gemara is going to explain. And this is a separate. Menorah is unique. Let's say the Gemara is going to continue. Rabbi Yochanan argues in Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Ama ein lanu ela b'ner kirab Shimon." The only time that we have a heter in moving a lamp, an oil lamp, a lamp is only an old ner. Let's say you had a lamp made out of cheres, earthenware, which some opinions hold. Let's say Rabbi Yehuda will hold that that's called muksa machmat mius, because earthenware material, the oil remains absorbed, it remains in the utensil, and doesn't, and therefore the utensil gets very bad. It's very not nice after use. So Rabbi Yehuda said that's called muksa. You can't move that. You can't take a earthen utensil on. It would be muksa, and muksa machmat mius. It's disgusting. But Rabbi Shimon says no. He doesn't hold of muksa machmat mius. He doesn't say that something that's disgusting, that because it's not so pretty or you know it's not such a nice thing, that therefore you're going to go ahead and therefore you won't use it under, if you need to use it. You would use it sometimes for some other purposes. So that's where the law follows Reb Shimon of a menorah. But a menorah, bein biyodo achat, bein nitelet b'shtei yadav. With a menorah, whether you carry it with one hand or whether you take it with two hands, asur l'taltala. You're not allowed to go ahead and move it on Shabbat, which means Reish Lakish would agree that if it's two hands, if it's a heavy menorah, then you can't move it on Shabbat, right? Everybody agrees a menorah that's a two-hand, that's heavy, you need two hands to carry it. You can't go ahead and move it on Shabbat. Meaning to say, it's possible, and that could even go like Rav Shimon. meaning Reb Shimon, that would hold that, and the Gemara says the time of my, and what's the reason why? What's the reason why everybody would agree? What's the issue by the menorah? Rabbav Rabbi Yosef Domer Tavayu Hoyu v'Adam Kovei lo Mokom. By menorah, since you go ahead and set a place for it, right? You have a special spot that you put you don't move it from, you have this is the spot for the menorah, and that's where the menorah stays throughout the Shabbat. You don't move it. So, but since you designate a spot for it, so therefore, when it's a heavy menorah, it's clear that you're not going to move that menorah. That's clear. You're designating the spot there, and you're not going to come to move it. So therefore, that's why, and even Reb Shimon would be able to agree that it's a problem of mukseh. Because look what Rish Lakish says. Rish Lakish says, if it's one hand, if you can move it with one hand, Rish Lakish says that's not called a problem. But if you can't move it with one hand, if you need two hands, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to move it, which seems like that's Reb Shimon's. That would be that seems like a Reb Shimon, because if you don't hold like Reb Shimon, so even if you can move it with one hand, it should be mukseh. The fact that he distinguishes between one hand and two hands sounds like, even though I say it's not mukseh with one hand, I don't agree with the idea of mukseh in this type of case. But when it's two hands, it's something unique, has a separate, special spot, and therefore I will agree that it's mukseh. Everyone agreed that it will be mukseh.
Same person, right?
Say it again.
One hand or two hands, same person.
Same person, but
it's not two persons that hold the menorah.
No, the same person. A menorah. How heavy is the menorah? Do I need two people? Do I need by two hands to move it? Same person, or one hand to move it? Same person. And the argument of Yochanan Rish Lakish, do we say that only a heavy menorah? That's called that. My mindset, let's say, is I'm not going to move on a Shabbat. I have a special place. It's heavy. I don't move it. Or even let's say a light menorah that can move one hand, maybe I'm also separated from, because I designated the place for it also, even though it's easy to handle. But so that's why you can't prove from the story of the menorah that fell on the coat, because maybe the menorah that fell on the coat was a menorah, since it's a menorah, and you designate a place for the menorah, so maybe that would be a case of even Rav Shimon would agree it's mukseh. So you can't prove that Rav Asi, who did not move the menorah, and who was a student of Rabbi Yochanan, is because he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe it's not he doesn't hold like Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe he holds like Rabbi Shimon in general. But the menorah is different, because the menorah is an item, is a large item, and you set a space for it, set a special designated spot. Maybe that's just like Reb Shimon holds that if you take the growth with simukim, you take the grapes, you take the figs, and you put it on the roof to dry out. Even Reb Shimon would say that's mukseh. That's because when you put it on the roof to dry out, it gets unedible in the beginning. You're separated from it. So maybe the menorah, which you have a special spot that you put it, you designate a spot. Maybe that's also you're separated from its mukseh. But when something that you don't do such a thing, when you don't have that special designated spot, you move it around sometimes. Maybe that's not mukseh. So therefore, we needed the report from Israel that says that Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Yehuda, because without that, you can't prove from the story of the menorah that fell on the coat that he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Because maybe that's a different case, and maybe even Rabbi Shimon would hold you can't move the menorah. Amalei, so the Gemara shoots back. Amalei Abayel Rabbi Yosef, you're telling me that the reason is why this menorah is different and everybody should hold its mukseh is because you set a place for it. It has a set place. What do you mean? Kilat chatanim. Kilat chatanim. You have a picture here in your Gemara. It's like you turn the page, right? Look at the picture on page 45B3 on the bottom. That's a bed. See that bed? And there's that, it has that, those, the dark, which is shaded dark, that's like the canopy, that's like the curtain that's coming to cover the bed. And this is a bed, let's say this is they made for the Khatan, a bed in honor of the of the marriage. So let's say this this bed, you put this in a certain place that it stays here, and yet he says now on Memvav Aleph 46A1, right? Turning the page. You could go ahead and you could spread that it's the bed is set up. It has the poles already, but you need to put the curtain on. You could put that curtain on Shabbat, and you can remove the curtain on. You could take apart that curtain on. You can not take apart. I don't want to see you take apart. You could remove, move away on that curtain on Shabbat. Now, what's the issue here? What's the chidush? The chidush is, good long time no see, David. We miss you. Welcome. Bruchim habayim. So what's the issue? The issue is on Shabbat, you're not allowed to build on Shabbat, and you're not allowed to demolish on Shabbat, right? You can't go ahead and build, David, you can't build a building on Shabbat. You can't go ahead and build a building on Shabbat. And you can't make even a temporary tent. You can't pitch a tent on Shabbat. Right? Pitching a tent on Shabbat, even a temporary tent, is like has a symbol. It looks like building. I can't, whether it's rabbinic or like that, it's a problem. You can't make a tent, make an OL, create some sort of covering, David, over yourself on Shabbat, some sort of structure of a tent on Shabbat. Also, you can't take apart a tent on Shabbat, right? That's similar to demolishing. One of the 39 malachot on Shabbat, 2 of the 39 is one is building and one is demolishing. You want to take a building and you want to demolish a building. You want to demolish something that's built for the purpose of rebuilding. That would be the malacha on Shabbat of Torah prohibition. If you demolish a building just to destroy, that would be rabbinic prohibition, because it's destruction. It's not. It has to be productive to be a malacha. Just like if someone erases on Shabbat, right? You're not allowed to write on Shabbat. You're not allowed to erase on Shabbat. 2 different malachot. But the malacha of erasing is only when you're erasing for a purpose. You're erasing because you want to rewrite something in its place, right? That's called the biblical prohibition. Rabbinic prohibition, even if you erase just for the fun, because you want to erase something, you can't. But now the question is, can I go ahead and take this canopy, David, that they may had a bed, they call it a bridal bed. They had a bed that they would go ahead and spread these curtain. It had there's like a picture here. It looks like a triangle, and you spread the curtains. But but the thing is about this bed, this canopy, it doesn't have it's not a flat top. To be an ohel, to be considered you're making a tent, if you spread something out at tefach, let's say about 3.5 inches or so. But here they didn't. If you have some poles, and on Shabbat you go in and you put something on top to go across to make a roofing, some sort of shelter underneath. That will be, you're not allowed to do that on Shabbat. How do you like that? You can't go ahead and make something in that type of way of that's going to cover it it's like a tent, even if it's only a tefach, but less than a tefach. If it's less than that, that's not called making a tent. And this curtain goes like this. Here's curtain number 1. Here's curtain number 2, and the curtains go like this. You see in the picture like this. So when they go like this, this is pointy on top. It's not flat. If I would not be able to go ahead and make this like this, put the curtain like this, but making the curtain like this, you see that, Simon? It's not. There's no width, if that's the right word, of a tefach on top. There's no 3.5 inches of going this way like this. So therefore, I'm allowed to go ahead and move it and put it together, put the curtain down, put the curtain up. But how can I do that? When I place this, when I don't plan, my mindset on Shabbat is to leave it there. I have a special spot for this kilat chatanim, and yet the Gemara says it's not considered mukseh, and so we see that even though you set a certain and if you're telling me you could take it apart, so and you could spread it out, so obviously you're moving this bed on Shabbat. How are you allowed to move this bed on Shabbat? You you set the place for it. You designated this spot for it. If it's true by designating a spot for something that makes it separated from me, then you should not be able to move this bed. The fact that you can move this bed on Shabbat shows you designation of a place for an item does not make it automatically mukseh. Tosfos points out that there might be certain situations setting a place would be considered mukseh, but this type of setting a place, similar, and the menorah, setting a place to place the menorah is also both that level of that type of placement would not be considered mukseh. So you can't tell me that the reason that menorah is different because you set a place for it. That's not enough to make it mukseh. Elam Abaye says, okay, you know what the problem with the menorah? You know what the problem that candelabra that fell on the coat on Shabbat, not that it was on fire, but you know what the problem and why you can't move that candelabra and maybe why the menorah was made out of sections. Okay, section 1, section 2. It wasn't a menorah one piece like the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash was miksha achat. It was made. You made one. Take one piece of gold, right? And you from that big piece of gold, you made the menorah from one piece of gold. What about a lot of the menorahs today? Some menorahs today, the cheap menorah, see they're put together. A lot of them, I don't know if that's only a cheap one. Maybe all of them made that way, right? They're screwed in together. So it's not that there's one piece, one big piece, right? It's you put the pieces together, and then you put the pieces together, menorah. So here we're talking about what's made out of sections. And what's the issue? If you move the menorah, it seems like the sections weren't made so well, and the sections could come apart, could fall apart. And if it falls apart, you might come to go ahead and put it back together on Shabbat. And putting it back together on Shabbat, you're making it into a utensil on Shabbat. That will be one of the 39 malachot, makah patish. You're making a utensil on Shabbat. And therefore, therefore the concern of the menorah is you can't move the menorah because maybe you might come to fix the menorah because it might fall and you come to fix it. So therefore you can't bring a proof from that story. Maybe the reason why Rav Asi, the student Rabbi Yochanan, said that that it's mukseh is because there was a concern you might come to fix something. But in a regular case where we don't have that concern, when it's not a menorah, when it's not like that type of item, maybe he would hold there's no problem of mukseh. You can't prove from that story that in general he would hold the mukseh. Maybe that story is different. Therefore, we needed the report from Israel to tell us that Rabbi Yochanan holds of mukseh. Ihachi, the Gemara says, "My time of Shimon Lakish is Shari." So the Gemara says, if that's the case, if you're telling me the case of the menorah is it's made out of sections, and you're telling me there's a very big concern that by moving the menorah it fall apart, and you're going to put it back together, right? You should know, by the way, in my glasses, sometimes my glass once fell out of my glasses on Shabbat. So I think I asked Rabbi David Feinstein, Moshe Feinstein's elder son of Zecher Tzadik Levracha, can I put my glass that fell out back into my glasses? And I think he told me no. Why not? Because I might come screw it in. If I put my glass, it's made to be screwed in, right? How, you see the screw. I got the screw over here, and the screw over here, right? Not to put it back in.
That actually doesn't fix nothing.
I mean, again, this doesn't fix anything. But the normal thing is when you put your glass in, you don't leave the glass like that. What do you do, David? When you put the glass, you fix the screw. And then that's what I recall. It's a number of years ago. He passed away maybe 5 years ago, but this is a number of years ago. I think I have it in my notes somewhere. Don't put the glass. I'm not telling you that all the rabbis agree with that. You have to ask your posek what your posek holds. But I think he told me you can't put it back in. It's very similar to what the Gemara's concern over here is. What's the Gemara's concern?
Reading and praying and concentrating.
So, you know what? A lot of shuls have reading glasses. Maybe I could use the reading glasses of the synagogue. But
I think
morning, Jay.
I know this case exactly, and I think also said that you can put it back unless you really get it.
See, Ravadia allowed. You think Ravadia allowed? Okay, so now you got to ask him.
Or something, same thing with the glass in Shabbat.
I'm saying in Shabbat. I'm saying if the glass came out, the concern you might come to you put it back, and therefore Rabbi Feinstein's opinion was, what I recall, is not to put it back. It could be. You can look up what Ravadia Yosef says. Might say differently. We welcome everybody back to the class. Moshe, you're invited any day. We meet every day. Monday. You might have. Where are you from, Moshe? That's like Tikva. How do you like from the Holy Land? Look at my point. So you should know the class starts at 6:45, but we let you in anytime, right, David? It's great. David has a great sense of humor. Bruchim habayim. Thank you, David. And by the way, there's Moshe. There's breakfast downstairs after the minyan.
Thank you.
All the best.
All the best. Very.
Thank you for coming. David, welcome back. Yes. Yeah, we need you. David, we need you badly.
Back.
Okay, great. You like the Gemara, the menorah has a place. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Jack's waiting for you.
We gotta go one step at a time. Exactly. One step at a time. Let's start tomorrow.
Okay. Beautiful. David, beautiful. Great day. You too.